Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Let's do our first monthly wrap-up of the year. I haven't done a monthly wrap-up in forever. I typically do check-ins, but I haven't wanted to do a check-in, so we're gonna do a monthly wrap-up. We'll see how that plans out next month, if I want to do check-ins, if I read a lot. If not, we're sticking to monthly wrap-ups this year. Yeah, I hope your first reading month was great for 2024. I read a total of 8 books, and one of those was DNF. I started off the year pretty strong, and the last week, honestly, I kind of slacked off in reading, but that's okay. 8 books is like fine. Some of these are in a vlog, I want to say. I started book journaling. It's a very simple like spread, just checking off books as I read them. Here's like January's title page, and then every time I finish a book I write my thoughts, and I have like little stickers and stuff. Anyways, but yes, the first book that I read this month was a book that I've been wanting to read for quite some time, and I wanted to like expand my reading more, so I picked up Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. I have, I think, a TikTok video about this, and do I have a vlog about Pride and Prejudice? I'm not sure if I vlogged this one, but yeah, I read Pride and Prejudice. I was very pleased with the experience. I was very nervous. I don't read classics, and I know this is a more approachable one, but still, I didn't know how well I'd receive it. I love the gossip. I love the drama of this. I mentioned before that one of my favorite reviews I've seen of Pride and Prejudice is someone saying like it's just people going to each other's houses, and like, yes, it is, but it's still very good and dramatic, and I love it. Anytime Elizabeth opened her mouth and said some shit to Darcy, I was gagging. I love this so much. I think I give it like a 4-star experience, and I've heard that if I liked the drama gossip B-ness of this, then I should read Emma, which I really wanted to read something else by Jane Austen this month, but I didn't want to like pack too much in like 1 month. And check out my TikTok if you want to like see my thoughts. I think I did 2 on Pride and Prejudice, like one's like a more funny one, and then one's like a more like discussion one. I wanted to read a horror this month, and I read My Heart is a Chainsaw by Stephen Graham Jones. My first experience with Stephen Graham Jones. I had a really good time with this one. I was very iffy on the writing the first half because it's just not something for me, or specifically this character is very strange, and so the writing, I think the author was making it kind of weird as well to go with her. This book is about a young girl who is very much obsessed with the slasher subgenre of horror, and she's like absolutely convinced that her like small sleepy town has a slasher event coming. Like she's absolutely sure that people are gonna die because they're gonna get killed. She even like picks out like the final girl that she thinks is gonna like survive this event, because she just like encapsulates all the tropes of the final girl. But really, this is just like on top of that, this book is also about a girl who just like needed someone in her life, and my heart breaks for her. I think when I was talking about this on a TikTok video, again, I talked about this in a TikTok, I started kind of getting emotional because I think about Jade and what she didn't have, and she's like a good person. Like she's a great person. If she had someone in her life at some point, a parent, a friend, I think about how her life would have changed. I get very emotional when I think about this main character. It's a very fully realized main character, by the way. I think that's where like this book excels, but her inner dialogue is very weird, and that kind of put me off. So like if you're getting into this book, keep that in mind. Great character, the writing, you have to work with it a little bit, for me anyways. 4 stars as well. After that, I read Trolled, which is the 3rd book in the Legacy of Magic series by Lindsay Buroker. This was like my urban fantasy of this month. I always am in the mood for urban fantasy, but I really had to like calm it down. If I wanted to, I could just read urban fantasies, but like I said, I wanted to expand my reading a little bit more. So this is the 3rd book in a sequel series, so bear with me when I kind of try to explain some stuff. I never actually read the original series myself, so I think if you wanted to jump into Lindsay Buroker's like writing, she writes fantasy, sci-fi, urban fantasy, sci-fantasy. This one follows a half dwarvish, half Samoan young woman. She like fixes houses for a living and then like sells them, and it's not like millennial gray. She's a dwarf, so she's actually pretty handy with like woodworking and stuff like that. All her life she's pretty much assumed that her mother died because of this thing that she went through, and as each book progresses, that may or may not have happened. I don't want to spoil anything, but yeah, she has like mom drama in her family. Her mom is a dwarf, actually like a princess specifically. It's urban fantasy, so each book kind of has its own thing and they kind of connect. There's an overarching theme. If you've ever read like a Mercy Thompson, very similar kind of vibe. I think for urban fantasies, you either have to like love the main character or like love the author's writing or creativity. I like Lindsay Buroker in general. I typically give her books like 3 stars, but I do like our main character Matty here as well. I think she's so, I don't know, there's something so like bright about her that I like. And of course there's gonna be like a love interest throughout the book as well, or throughout the series. I gave this one 3.5 stars. The first 2 books had like a will they won't they as far as the romance goes, and the third book is really when they're starting to get into the they will at some point maybe. So if you're into the romance, that's where we are right now. I also read a sapphic urban fantasy called Twisted Sorcery by Kira Adler. I think this is the first book published by this author. Maybe I could be wrong, but this is definitely the first in a series. I said it's okay to read another urban fantasy this month because this one was sapphic, so it doesn't count, or it counts, but we're letting it go because it's sapphic. In this book, we follow a young woman who's recently been made into a vampire. I think she's like a 2-month-old vampire, so still very young. She's very much like down on her luck, doesn't have a job, but she needs money. Like, she's broke. People don't hire vampires. It seems to me that like it's public knowledge that like paranormal supernatural beings exist, like sirens and witches and stuff like that. And so she, like a lot of young women, come across like sex work and trafficking work. That's a whole thing. There is attempted like essay on page, trigger warning, stuff like that. And then she meets like a witch who's kind of like ingrained in like the seedy crime underbelly of this fictional city called Midnight City. I do wish that the author kind of expanded more on the city and like the paranormal aspects of this world. The author probably wanted to just focus on like the sapphic stuff, which is fine. I do think the author's writing had a lot of promise. If this is like the first book published, I had a good time. It's sapphic. Like I was having a good time. This is like mafia alternative or like mafia light, because there's not actually, well, I mean, there's technically a mafia or like a crime thing going on in the background, and our main character, our love interest, is technically involved with that, but also not. I'm not a big mafia person, but there's like crime elements in this story. So I also read Windwitch by Susan Dennard. This is the second book in the Witchlands series, which I've been putting off reading for so long. I reread the first book because I wanted to finish the series, but I always kind of just like stop after the first one, because honestly the summary on the flap is not super inviting, and I think this just goes to show that like publishers really need to like work on how they pitch books, because I had a great time with this despite what I was told here. This series is a little hard to explain. It's one of those like politically like plot driven series where like you don't know what's gonna happen next. It's kind of hard to give like a succinct summary, but the first book opens up towards the tail end of like a 20-year truce on this continent, and some people like don't want that truce to continue and some people do. It's again political drama, but there's also like a prophecy thrown in. The magic system is really like cool. Some people are like different levels of like, say like a water witch. Like one of our characters is a tide witch, so he specifically only works with tides, but then there's water witches who can like manipulate water in any way. So like that different level of like water bending, I guess. Anyways, really cool stuff. I think some standouts about this book is the main character. There's 2 main characters that are best friends, basically like sisters, and that's like one of my favorite dynamics in a book. And we have that here. This book is less plot, more character stuff, and I think that's where some of like the lower reviews come in. This was expanding the world and introducing like different POVs and different aspects of this world, and growing character relationships or breaking down character relationships or expanding on character relationships. So this one's a lot more slower, but I really enjoyed it. As someone who likes slow fantasy, I was gonna make a TikTok video about this, about how like certain reviews are like just like not for certain readers, because I read negative reviews about this and I was like, oh okay, but like that, I literally don't care about that. Like that actually makes me want to like pick up a book, or pick up this book, or like, you know what I mean? Like I read someone's review about this and how that there's like miscommunication as part of the plot, which is true. There is miscommunication, but it's okay. given the context, you know what I mean? Anyways, I had a good time with this despite it not being what some people might expect from the sequel. I give it 4.5 stars. I also read volume 2 of Skip Beat by Yoshiki Nakamura. I'm trying to get through more like manga, like graphic stuff. I have read a good chunk of Skip Beat before. I think I've read the first 12 volumes, and I have these like 3-volume bind-ups. I have the other ones here. It's a very silly, lighthearted shoujo manga. If you never heard about this one, it is about this young girl named Kyoko who leaves her like small town in Japan. She was working at an inn, and she leaves the inn to go to Tokyo with the innkeeper's son. He doesn't want to own an inn in his, like, as he grows up. He wants to be a Japanese idol, so she follows him when he asks her to like help fulfill his dream. She's absolutely in love with him, but she kind of finds out at some point that he's like taking advantage of her affections. He knows that she likes him, but he doesn't care. He just like wanted someone to like, you know, support him like financially. She has like multiple jobs and stuff like that. So when she finds out that like he's using her, she gets very angry, and she kind of like stays like in like an angry revenge mindset. And instead of like keying his car or something, or like throwing his shit out a window, she decides to like be a Japanese idol as well at the rival company, and be like even more famous than him. It's wild, it's silly, it's like not based in reality at all. It follows like the Japanese like idol space. Like I said, I enjoy this. I've read it before, I've seen the anime, but yeah, I want to continue on in the series. I think there's like quite a few volumes at this point. I don't think it's been finished. I don't really know how to rate manga at this point, but like as a whole, I would say this series is like 4.5 material as a whole. Some volumes are better than others, but like overall I really enjoyed them. And then I DNF'd City of Lies by Victoria Thompson. This is the first book in the Counterfeit Lady novel series. I don't want to like question an author's space in publishing, but I know this author has worked a lot. Like, she has a lot of other published work, but this just reads like brand new author to me. And this is definitely not her first work. So, I mean, congrats on like being like a traditionally published. But like, I'm kind of gagged that this is not like a debut. In this book, we're supposed to follow a young woman named Elizabeth who runs cons with her brother, and she like cons the wrong guy, and she kind of has to be on the run, which sounds like fun, like thrilling. It's also like historically like set. I think it's like World War I set in like Washington DC, and God, the writing was like really like, damn, that was like not good. And I'm like the last thing I critique is writing, but this was just so like, one, didn't take its time to establish characters, two, moving towards plot points really quickly, also very audience aware. If you've ever seen like, and no shade, but like a Marvel movie, sometimes like the villains will like announce like their plot or like why they're doing the evil thing, or like characters talk to each other and very like this is what we're gonna do, and then this is what we're gonna do. Like that's mostly for like the audience to like follow and know where they're at in the story, so they don't like miss up plot points and things like that. That is something here, but I think in writing you can be a little bit more nuanced with it, because you have so much like word to work with, right? You don't have like a set limited like an hour and 45 minutes to get through a story. You can take your time with a book, but this author like didn't want to, I guess. Very rough. I DNF'd it at like 50 pages, which is like 16% of the book. Maybe I could have lasted through more, but I honestly didn't want to, and I wanted to read something else, so I DNF'd this. Then I think this is the last book I read in the month. Yeah, so the last book I read this month, or the past month, was The Guest List by Lucy Foley. I was very hesitant about this one. I haven't heard the best things. She's kind of like mixed from what I've heard of this author, and we follow a group of people who are going to this like remote island off of Ireland for a wedding. I thought we were gonna follow one individual person, but we follow like multiple perspectives, and it's one of those like everyone has like a secret. Someone wants to kill someone, and pretty rough at the beginning. This author doesn't really build tension well until like actual shit has to go down, like until someone like gets attacked or whatever. Up until then, like not a lot of tension. This author likes to do things, this one thing that I hate, and that is when they add in a very like ominous like ending, like one-liner towards the end of a chapter, despite the fact that the rest of the chapter has been pretty like light and like uneventful. Like the chapter will talk about like someone's like kids or job or their marriage or whatever, and then like at the end the author will throw in, but little did I know, even the people we love have secrets. And it's like dun dun dun. I can hear like the dramaticness of that like one-liner at the end of a chapter, but everything else in that chapter doesn't, it's whatever. And I feel like it's like a weird like jump scare equivalent at the end of the chapter that doesn't really fit the vibe at all. Towards the latter half, when we're getting reveals and like people are doing like nefarious things, then yeah, like I feel the suspense building and the one-liners are fine, but at the beginning definitely not. Without spoiling anything, I think that not everything has to fit together so well at the end. I don't want to say much more than that, but just really like everything comes down to this one point. I feel like that's too like perfectly with a bow, if that makes sense. If you've read the book, you kind of like know what I'm referring to. If not, that's fine, but it's a little too, this is the problem and only this. And I say this a lot, and I feel like I've been getting this a lot in mystery thrillers, the ones that I picked up. I need more people to get their comeuppance. Like I know, like maybe it's the I need like permanent punishment in the Gen Z, very young millennial space, but I really hate when someone does a really terrible thing or they're very obviously bad and the book kind of just ends, but they need to get punished somehow. I don't know. Rate this 3 stars. It's fine for what it's worth, but I don't think I'm gonna be keeping it on my shelves. I'm thinking of opening up a Pango Books account and selling some stuff, because I have a box of books I unhauled a while ago, and I haven't gotten rid of them, so I might just like open up a Pango. So yeah, that's everything I've read. It's a pretty good like mix of genres, not a ton of age range. It's mostly adult stuff, which is not surprising since I haven't been like super drawn to YA stuff. Anyways, please let me know what you thought of any of these books, if you've ever read them before or you're like hesitant to pick them up. I'd like to hear anything you have to say down below. I will also link my social medias down below, as well as some far more important links. Feel free to like, dislike, comment, or subscribe, or do neither. It's all cool with me. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Peace out.